Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu Reviews, the show where I take 4 random unrelated albums and I stick them in a blender and then I review them, I rate them and I rank them. Simplicity achieved. All 4 albums this week were plucked from the comments, so if you have an album you'd like to see featured, why not drop a nomination and who knows, you might just get lucky. So let's introduce our combatants in alphabetical order. Firstly, we have the self-titled debut album by Fountains of Wayne from 1996, which was nominated by Bruno Miranda. Next up, we have A1A by the recently late Jimmy Buffett from 1974, which was nominated by Gary Gillam. Then we have Ladies Bridge by Richard Hawley from 2007, which was nominated by Stee. And lastly, we have Sparkle in the Rain by Simple Minds from 1984, which was nominated by Oliver. So, now the battle lines have been drawn, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. This is Chuchu Reviews. Coming in last this week, we have Sparkle in the Rain by Simple Minds, which was the band's 6th LP from 1984. And Simple Minds had had a meteoric rise, blasting out from the opening post-punk 1-2 punch of their debut, Life in a Day, and its follow-up, Reel to Reel Cacophony, through the art rock and new wave of their next 2 releases, and finally to the synth-pop breakout, New Gold Dream. The success of that record led to support tours with the likes of The Police and U2, prompting the band to move in a more stadium-friendly direction themselves, which, to their credit, worked well for them in a commercial sense, with Sparkle in the Rain going double platinum in the UK and also taking in a raft of good reviews along the way. So you can safely and completely ignore me and disregard my opinion when I say that I just don't like this album. I'm not keen on either The Police or U2, and the move Simple Minds is making here towards bland ubiquity is an ill look. This album seems to move within the melodic range of about 2 notes. Every track on this record just sounds the same. And not only that, but they're all overcooked into oblivion, often with whatever the backing track was becoming a sloppy swill of blustering squall. I mean, if the vocals weren't present, you'd be hard pressed to pick out any melody whatsoever on most of these tunes. Everything here is just so bland. I mean, it tries to be dark and brooding, but doesn't go far enough to achieve that. It tries to be catchy and anthemic, but its sickly melodic range curtails that too. The record is just stuck in a gloopy no man's land that truly has nothing appealing about it. I mean, it's rare to find an album that has 0 songs I actually like on it, but Sparkle in the Rain comes close. I guess mildly acceptable moments would include the opening, Up on the Catwalk, which has a stormy vibe and a Talking Heads kind of twitchiness to it. Waterfront has a relentlessly pulsing bass groove that's pretty cool. Jim Kerr's booming vocals on it are also decent. Street Hassle has some nice marching percussion and a rocking build-up. Sea Moon, Crying Like a Baby, has ridiculous blasts of 80s synths that are at least a little fun, while closing instrumental, Shake Off the Ghost, has a cool synthy darkness and a melody that you can actually follow. But yeah, I mean, everything else on this can suck the proverbial dick and die in a muddy grave somewhere. Sorry for the poor soul who nominated this, but hey, everything is subjective. This got good reviews and sold a shit ton of copies. History is definitely on your side with this one, but it ain't for me. 2 stars. Next up, we have A1A by Jimmy Buffett from 1974, which was his 5th LP. And before we dive into the record, of course it needs to be noted that Buffett passed away just a few weeks ago, so of course the best wishes go out to his family and his fans. Rest in peace, Jimmy. And speaking of the man, some interesting facts about the dude. He released over 30 records, with 8 of them certified gold and 9 certified platinum or multi-platinum, selling over 20 million albums in total. Not only that, but Jimmy also took his beachside style and parlayed it into self-branded restaurant businesses, thus making him one of the richest musicians in the world, with a net worth of over $1 billion. Not bad for an artist who, frankly, I'd never even heard of before now. And what we have here on A1A is an extremely pleasant set of seaside-flavoured country rock tunes, with Caribbean and calypso elements creeping in around the edges, as well as an occasional sidestep into folk. Or to put in the words of Jimmy Buffett himself, it's an album of island escapism. Indeed, the overall vibe of this record is one of being on a Florida beach at sunset, slightly drunk with another ice cold beer in your hand and a comfy hammock slung between two palm trees somewhere nearby. And as vibes go, that's certainly not a bad one to spend some time with. Highlights on a very comfortable listen include Stories We Could Tell, which has an anthemic sing-along nature to it that sounds a good bit like Linda Ronstadt. A Pirate Looks at 40 is a gorgeous ballad, with its broken seaside nostalgia feeling like a shabby beachside hotel that's seen better days but is still beautiful in its own rundown kind of way. Migration sees Jimmy getting all vengeful against people who drive camper vans, fairly hilariously labelling them as bastards over some sprightly country jangle pop. I mean, maybe he caught his wife dogging in one? Who knows? Try to Reason with Hurricane Season has a resigned quality to its drunken ocean stumble, while Nautical Wheelers is a nice waltz time ballad with a cocktails at sunset atmosphere and an easy sing-along chorus. So yeah, this is a very nice LP with some decent emotion-heavy lyrics and a relaxing, wistful atmosphere. It's not the type of album that's incredibly impressive or groundbreaking. To be honest, it's so lightweight and wispy that it could be construed as kind of forgettable. But it does what it sets out to do well, and there aren't any weak tracks on it, so although I doubt I'll ever be a true parrot head, this was a pleasant yet inessential place to visit for 40 minutes within my mind palace. Just like going to the Red Lobster but without the food poisoning. 3.5 stars.
Now I go for younger women, live with several a while. Though I ran them away, hey, they'd come back one day, and they still could manage a smile. Just takes a while. Just takes a while.
Next up, we have the self-titled debut LP by the New York rock band Fountains of Wayne from 1996. And here we have a pretty typical 2000 skate rock album, except this was made in 1996, which puts it way ahead of the curve. And I've been ruminating upon skate rock, which is tantamount to wasting brain cells, but the question is, where does it come from? Like, how far do you have to track back to find the font of all things skate rock related? Of course, in the late 80s you had the Genesis with the Pixies, that in turn fed through Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins and Green Day in the early 90s, and I guess through the trickle of influence and distillation wound up here in the mid 90s with acts such as Fountains of Wayne perfecting that immediately identifiable pop punk skate punk sound. It's like the sound of American cotton candy getting stuck in your teeth, and a million frat boys calling you things like bruh and dude. And yeah, as I've already said on this channel, the whole skate rock scene and sound is not really my thing. That said, there are some exceptions to the rule, such as my enduring love of Jeff Rosenstock. Speaking of whom, he's going to be my nomination next episode with his new record Hell Mode, but hey, that's for then and this is now. So with all this ragging upon skate rock, you might well have assumed that Fountains of Wayne would have ended up lower on this list, but they haven't because I actually like this record. I think it's catchy, it has a good energy, and also a set of solidly ear-catching lyrics. And as for the sound palette itself, well, as I already said, it's your typical skate rock sound. Crunchy guitars in the chorus, straight ahead pounding drum lines, and that kind of slightly whiny vocal style with a hard emphasis on the American accent. Again, not really my thing, but as far as these specific types of records go, it's a pretty darn good one. But not perfect, as the last 3 tracks on this album definitely lull in quality. You Curse It Girls, Please Don't Rock Me Tonight, and Everything's Ruined feel like a trilogy of fillers that lead the LP to a disappointing close. Everything's ruined indeed. Which is a shame, as everything else on this is pretty good. My cherry picks include Sink to the Bottom, which is a super catchy grunge rocker, even though it's way too derivative of the Pixies. She's Got a Problem deals with teen suicide in a way that doesn't make the singer sound like an insincere twat, which is not always easy to do with that subject. Survival Car is a fun bit of pogo pop with some delightful surf rock overtones. Sick Day is a lovely REM aping ballad with a clean texture and a nice melody in the chorus. I've Got a Flare is awesome with its strident power chords and insistent toe-tapping sunniness, while Leave the Biker gets a win because the needlessly cruel lyrics really made me laugh. Please baby, leave the biker, break his heart. It's just so mean. I guess the singer of this band and Jimmy Buffett should team up and go to war against bikers and camper vans. It'd probably put a big dent in the meth business at least. So yeah, this is a good skate rock record that was notably ahead of its time, so much so that you have to wonder how much influence this had on acts such as Blink-182 and Sum 41. 4 stars. So, the Chuchu Reviews Gold Medal this week is going to go to Ladies Bridge by Richard Hawley from 2007, which was his 5th solo LP. And it begs the question, what exactly is a Ladies Bridge? And why do I keep getting mental flashes of endless bushland whenever I think about it? Anyway, Richard Hawley used to be the guitarist of the Long Pigs, who were a group of critically acclaimed yet underperforming Britpop orsorans. And that band was one I had a strained relationship with, as they only made 2 albums, one of which I liked and the other of which I absolutely fucking hated. And because of that latter album, I mostly gave Richard Hawley's solo stuff a bit of a wide berth. But more for me, I've obviously been missing out on some good shit because this record is awesome. Which really shouldn't be that surprising to me, as Hawley's musical bingo card has all my numbers on it. A big chunk of Roy Orbison, some Elvis Presley, a dash of Nick Cave, a sprinkling of Morrissey, a metric fucktongue of pre-Beatles balladry, some gorgeous shimmering Johnny Marr guitar work, and lots of aching sadness. Like, why was I avoiding Richard Hawley again? I enjoyed every second of this LP. The quality of the songs here is incredibly consistent. The atmosphere is thick, cohesive, and endlessly emotive. The record just kind of sucks you into an ever-deepening veil of beautiful melancholy and the inevitable catharsis of what follows it. And as for highlights, well, that would be everything, but my favourites would include the opening Valentine, which kicks things off as they mean to go on, with a sweeping 1950s ballad that has a huge emotional lift-off in the chorus. Tracks like Serious and I'm Looking for Someone to Find Me bring some galloping rockabilly to the table, and let a little bit of light into the room at exactly the right strategic moments. Lady Solitude is amazing with its traditional arpeggiated guitar balladry, teasing some profound sadness from its minimalist trills. The Sea Calls has a swooning melody that somehow finds the middle ground between Beck and Morrissey, with its undulating wash of effects and subtle use of banjo heightening the mood. While title track Ladies Bridge has a descending sadness to it that couldn't be more like Roy Orbison if you forced it to permanently wear sunglasses and burnt its children in a house fire. Oh man, I'm going straight to hell for that one. Oh no. So yeah, I mean that's just the tip of the iceberg. Everything on this record is great. I mean, if I were to have a solitary complaint, it would be that this is a very specific sound for a very specific mood. If you want to hear 1950s balladry, this LP has you covered. If you don't want to hear that type of music, well, this album will do jack shit for you. Then again, you could say that about all 4 of this episode's records. From stadium synth rock, to island escapism, to skate punk, to 1950s balladeering, each of these records has a very specific sound and doesn't deviate much from it. But ultimately, I absolutely loved Ladies Bridge. I mean, I can't think of a way to make it better or anything that I'd change. For what it is, I think it's perfect. 5 stars. And that's another episode of Chuchu Reviews in the bag. Of course, I know that you'd probably rank these records differently, so why not sound off in the comments and tell me which one would win for you? And maybe drop a nomination while you're there. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.
Lights in our hearts, they tell no